Hi there, good evening and welcome to That Sunday Show. This is the Four Lads Had Their Own Podcast Network. My name's Scott Paterson. If you're joining us on our YouTube channel tonight, then of course we thank you for joining us on a fairly miserable night for the Rangers support. Lots to discuss between now and 9:30, 9:45, if we can squeeze it into 45 minutes for sure, of course. And to join me to discuss it all is Doogie and Sheryl. Doogie, I'll come to you in a wee while because I know you're a wee bit hoarse after lots of shouting, no doubt. Sheryl, I don't want to ask how you are because I'm fairly sure I can guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, do you know, I think I know a lot of people in the aftermath are saying, we knew this would happen. I thought we'd maybe got rid of a wee bit of that old firm scar tissue with losing Lundstrom, Barisic, Jack. But no, it appears that we're just passing on to a whole raft of players. So no, extremely disappointed.
Doogie, we spoke last week about this week in particular being happy and or sad. The week that's just passed, I thought went okay. There were some bits and pieces in the dying embers of deadline day, but all in all, I felt last week kind of set us up nicely for this afternoon. We all now know that it's been a terrible day for Philippe Clement and the football club, hasn't it?
You couldn't have asked for a better prep. Last weekend, we obviously came away against Ross County with 6 goals, a clean sheet, no fresh injuries, a great preparation for a big game. But we all said it last week. Last week came with a massive caveat that Ross County were not a very good side.
Yeah.
So we were all pretty realistic going into to this afternoon's game. And when we were discussing predictions, we all said we'd be delighted with a draw. So let's not make any mistakes. Excuse me, I do have a very, very sore throat. So let's not make any mistakes. We were up against it today. Celtic were clear favourites for many, many reasons. Recent history tells you that they've been the stronger of the two sides at Celtic Park. The odds, I don't know if you've seen the odds, they mentioned it on Sky today. Philippe Clement for a win today was the same levels as back in the Pedro Caixinha days.
Wow.
That's how up against it we were. And he equalled a stat that no manager wants to claim, which is 5 games without a victory against Celtic. And the last Rangers manager to do that was it Graham Murty they mentioned? So we're not in a great position right now, but we're going to get into detail of it. I think it was a very, very disappointing afternoon. I'm hoping we can find some positives somewhere, but for me, as I joked on Twitter, this is going to be a counselling session for the three of us, for our listeners. Rangers fans getting together just now to try and help each other through this, understand how we're in this situation and what we need to do to get ourselves out of it.
Yeah. Paul, who joins us watching on YouTube tonight. Hi, Paul. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. 5 players playing their first Old Firm game. Bigger and better players haven't handled it well the first time, which I think is true. No point in sack this and sack that. We need to work through this. He raises a couple of points that we'll probably come back to. And I've actually not long asked you guys both how you, and I'll just read it off the sheet as I wrote it. Are you happy with Clement? Are you concerned for Clement? 2 entirely different questions. And it's something that we'll come back to as the next 30 minutes or so goes on. Sheryl, the overriding feeling tonight, of course, amongst the Rangers support will be disappointment, frustration, anger, remembering this feeling from the previous visits to Celtic Park. I just wonder if, from your point of view, Sheryl, the thing that maybe concerns us most is that there's maybe parts of the support that weren't overly surprised in that today.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said in the beginning, it's easy to say in hindsight, oh yeah, I knew this was going to happen. I did think, we spoke about it last week, we could go there and get a draw, but just what we've seen today, I think we're in, at the moment, a battle for second. Yeah. Because unfortunately, they're just, the gulf between the two teams in every single department is massive. It wouldn't have bothered me as much, like the cup final was a really, really hard one to take, but the effort and the performance was there in general. Today, that was just absolutely nowhere. There is nobody. If you asked me for my man of the match, I would struggle to just get anybody. Igamani, when he came on, Do you know, there's your bright spot, Dougie. There's your what we're looking for here. I mean, nobody laid a glove on any of their players today. The lack of application, the lack of heart, and that was it. Nobody was prepared to go in there and fight. And we had a few players. I've seen it mentioned earlier that was their first Old Firm game, but we also had several players who it wasn't their first Old Firm game, and the performance was absolutely shambolic.
Yeah, no, I agree. Dougie, tonight we're going to speak about, we'll inevitably speak about James Tavernier. I think we'll speak about Jack Butland. We could speak about 11 tonight, because I don't think many of them have shared themselves in any glory at all. I don't want to go too much in on the goals. I think everyone's seen them. We will speak about maybe bits and pieces on them. The first 10 minutes, I think, lulled us all into a wee bit of false sense of security, where we actually did start okay. I felt we started all right. We looked like we were quite aggressive, high up the pitch. The three across the centre of Barron, Sterling and Diomande. I think Diomande was the one that was given the sort of opportunity to be a little bit more advanced of the three, albeit not too much. We looked at that point. We looked okay.
We did. The last couple of Old Firm games, Celtic have started really fast, and I think Clement previously has tried to sit back and try and absorb it, and you've seen it the 3-each game at Ibrox. We simply couldn't do it. They scored very quickly. The obsolete Tav mistake when Maeda scored. We've changed our tactic today. We've tried to put them on the back foot. We've taken the game to them, and it worked really, really well. I think the bit that just sums it up for me, and it's one word, Scott, is quality.
Yeah.
In that first 10 minutes, we created 3 really good chances, and Clement referenced them in his post-match interview. With more quality, and we put one of them in the back of the net, for me, it's a different game. I know we're going to sit here and we're going to all be very disappointed and very frustrated. That game could have been very, very different. And for me, it's just that bit of quality is missing. You know, Proper could head the ball across, and there's 3 guys at the back post, but he heads up. Dessers has a big chance. I'm now escaping what the third one was.
Matondo header.
It was Matondo's header. And this is the thing, right? Offside, right? Dessers was flagged offside. Matondo wasn't, but he probably was offside.
Yeah.
I think it's in their head that they potentially could have been offside, and it's kind of distracted them from it, right? Put the ball in the net. Just put the ball in the net, let VAR sort it out. And I tell you what, you put the ball in the net, it gives you confidence, and it starts to put doubts in their mind. And if you just reverse that situation and you look at the goal that they scored that was classed as offside, which, by the way, is very, very marginal. We were very lucky at that point. And I thought, you know, coming into this game, we were all chatting in my house watching the game that we needed some luck today. And there's us all high-fiving each other thinking, there's our luck. That's the moment that we've all been needing. You know, last season we didn't carry the luck. We thought, this is it. We've got the luck. But we just didn't learn our lesson. But I think if you look at it, though, Celtic galvanised from that ball getting in the net. They thought, yes, we can take them. You know, we've just shown we're capable of it. And I think the biggest issue for me, when they put the ball in the net, you just seen the mentality, the bottle crash amongst the Rangers squad. So you've got 2 issues. You've got the quality in the final third, and then you've just got the mentality. When that ball goes in for the disallowed goal, it was almost inevitable how quickly Celtic were going to score afterwards, and that's the biggest issue for me. I know we're going to sit here and talk about individual players and, you know, the lack of leadership amongst the squad, potential quality in the final third. For me, right now, the biggest difference between a Philippe Clement team and a Steven Gerrard team is that mentality. When Gerrard set a team up to go to Celtic Park, they went believing that we can win. See, when that goal went in and it got chopped off, I think the players realised, do you know what? They're better than us. And that's my issue. You know, everyone's going to...
Do you genuinely believe that, Dougie? Do you think it's I don't want to say attitude, but a belief thing, certainly, that a Steven Gerrard Rangers with guys like Katic and Barisic in there is well-equipped and better well-equipped, maybe mentally and as footballers, to go down and get a result as opposed to the existing group of players?
Yeah, and I get there's 5 players there that made debuts, and there's obviously 6 that are existing. There's something there. There's a mental block there. I don't know if you remember the Ryan Jack game at Ibrox where he scored and we won 1-0. Steven Gerrard spoke about how important that game was for Rangers, because that was the moment that the players believed that they could beat Celtic. We need that moment. The players need that moment. The manager needs that moment. We need to just beat them in a game. It could be January, right? Listen, I'm going to go on a big tangent here, right? I'm going to take a drink because I can barely speak.
Carry on, have a drink. Is that vodka and orange?
Vodka and orange. I wish. Right, here's my rant, right? Celtic are well established. They finished the season as champions. They went through pre-season, having a very strong pre-season. Excuse me. They've strengthened during the summer, but the core of their team has remained the same. I think they've signed 4 players. So the core of their team has remained the same. They're in a very fortunate position coming into this Old Firm game where they've not had to make too many adjustments. They have 0 injuries coming into this game. So there's massive context required, because flip it on our side, we've sold 13, 14, brought 10 in. What are we saying? 5 debutants today. We're carrying injuries to key players. The left-hand side could have been entirely different. Now, I think Jeffrey's been a revelation. Matondo, we'll come on to him. Terrible attitude from Matondo today. He was shocking for the goal where he's lost his man. You could have very differently had Yilmaz and Jeffrey in front of him, or you could have had Cortez in there. We are missing players. We've got players to come back. We've got new signings all gelling. The manager called for patience. He said we will not get going until around October time, because all these things have to click into place with players coming back, players all settling in post signing. It is going to take us time. We need to be patient. We need to get behind the manager. But I tell you what, it's very difficult in games like today. And I'm glad it's international break, because it allows us all to regroup. And hopefully when we come back, I think Dundee United away is the first game post-international break.
Yeah.
We need to start with a bang, Scott.
Yeah,
that said, Dougie, though, and I take all of that on board, can you imagine us in January playing against them and having the belief and the heart and the will and the bravery that was missing today?
Games of football are very fickle. You score in the first 10 minutes, that gives you that belief. And I think that's what we're missing right now. We just need to get something that gives the players belief. And it might be in the game, or it might be between now and then. All it takes is for Cortez to come back, and Cortez, Czerny with Dessers in the middle, start banging them in. We suddenly have a great midfield balance with Bashrami coming in, being able to create something. We could look very, very different on the pitch come the 2nd of January this year? Next year?
Yeah.
It could be very different. We need to remember that we are still a team in transition right now. Everything I spoke about it in the last pod. We are in major surgery mode right now in this summer. We need to make a lot of changes. It was never going to happen in this entire window, and we see that there's still too many players in this squad. Hadji, for example, who the manager clearly doesn't want, that we're going to have to keep rebuilding. And to your question, Scott, we'll come on to it. That's why you've got to back Clement. You can't keep changing the manager, because you need to get behind a structure that might be Niels Kloppen, as Director of Football Recruitment, identifying the players, saying these are the guys that we want to bring in, but before we can bring them in, you need to move players on. And that's the frustration. Everyone's all frustrated just now at every single level. The reality is, right, Celtic broke their record transfer twice this summer, but still turned over a profit. The narrative right now is the board haven't backed Clement. The board need to do better. We spent £15 million net.
Yeah.
We are the team that actually had to go and spend money. So it's difficult to accept. This is going to be a longer term project. We are going to have to go and sign guys. First of all, you're going to have to get that transfer pillar right. You're going to have to sell guys when the right offers come in. You're going to have to identify players that you can sign for hopefully bargains. You're talking about Conor Barron, for example, last week. Didn't have his greatest game today, but you're signing guys for free within Scottish football. Going to have to pay some compensation to Aberdeen. You're going to have to be clever with transfers over the next couple of windows to keep improving that quality, so that eventually we can compete on the park. The difference right now in quality was night and day. Celtic have a very, very good squad and a very established squad. We need to hope that our new signings are the right players. Again, I hate to go on a tangent, right? My biggest frustration right now about Philippe Clement, compare him to Steven Gerrard again, right? When Gerrard came in, Gerrard built a core of the squad in his first window. You've seen what he was wanting to build. He brought in the guys like Goldson, that was the rock of the defence. Clermont has signed players for the same positions, but are they going to be the core of the team for the next 4 or 5 years? Proper at centre-back, for example. Diamande at centre-mid. We paid £5 million for Diamande. Did we see a £5 million player today? Did we see a guy that's going to be the core of our team for the next 5 years? That's what I want to see from Clermont. I want to see what he's building long-term. I want to see the guys that's going to be the core of that squad, that if you fast forward 5 years are going to be saying, I remember in 2024, that was the guys that Clermont brought in that really shaped how we were looking, 4 or 5 years down the line.
Yeah. No, listen, I don't want to look too far ahead to January, to be honest with you, because Europa League games coming up that probably give us all the fear in some way or another, considering what we've seen today. Sheryl, I do want to bring it back to this afternoon, and we've mentioned Matondo losing Johnston for the goal, Robin Proper slipping, by all accounts, didn't have a great afternoon, we have to say. As he's sleeping, and James Tavernier he clearly doesn't expect Robin Proper to slip over, but you can even see in the slow motion replay, he's got no idea. And this scunners me. This absolutely scunners me. There is no danger that James Tavernier cannot know, after playing against him for so long, that Maeda is right in his shoulder. It has to be something, Sheryl, that he knows now is almost a given. If he turns around, that wee fella's going to be right in his shoulder. And sure enough, he was, and we're 1-0 down. A frustrating first goal to lose.
But again, we all knew, we spoke about that last week, not online, but we spoke between the three of us, that was going to be a huge issue and a huge worry. He's not had a great start to the season. I've heard that he was carrying an injury, he's not had enough downtime or whatever. It doesn't matter. He should not have been our right back today. We were always going to be susceptible. And what I noticed today as well, in the last few games this season, he's not even carrying that attacking threat now. No. We know he's not been the best of defenders. We know that, Barron's been dropping back to help out. We are aware of his defensive frailties, but he did have those numbers for us. He was always an attacking threat. He was always there. That's not even the case now. I don't know, do you play him? Do you move him up into the middle of the park? Or I don't know. I don't know. But he's not the answer at right back. Absolutely not. And that was our fear today, and it certainly came true as well.
Goal number 2 of the afternoon, Sheryl. I'll stay with you just to give Dougie some peace and let him deal with that vodka and orange that he's nursing. Again, do you know what I mean? It's a really, really poor goal to lose. Connor Barden to Tierney, his pass is probably not great. Barden, again, probably not having a great afternoon. However, you're maybe not looking to your 22-year-old that's come in for Aberdeen to control that game for one reason or another. When Kyogo takes possession of the ball there, I'm expecting Robin Proper to nail him. Because of where he is in the pitch, from a pitch geography point of view, you're just expecting him to put him up in the air and just end him, or end that attack, certainly. And then Kyogo, I have to say, probably embarrasses Jack Butland a little bit, because a pass beyond Jack Butland has a huge space to his left-hand side and he can't get near it. It's a disappointing goal to lose, and indeed I've seen bits and pieces on Twitter, the fountain of all good things Rangers related, and there are people questioning Butland's his position, of course, was wrong, but some people are questioning whether his head's been turned since the England call-up stuff happened in January last year. I wonder where you are as far as Butland's concerned, generally.
Do you know what? I was thinking about that this afternoon, because he had a great start with us, but if you think what he came in to replace, which was Alan McGregor, who at that point was dire. So all of a sudden we had this goalie that was more commanding, that would come out, that would go for the ball and wouldn't wait on his line. So he was a breath of fresh air. But we're not seeing that so much this season. Today, that positioning was awful. And he knows he's played in these games as well. He knows what Kyogo's capable of. He knows that Proper's just settling in. He hasn't gone out. But there's no excuse for that positioning and the amount of space that he had. And it wasn't even a particularly hard strike. No. Do you know what I mean? It was from distance, but it was passed into the corner.
Dougie, it was a disappointing one. You can completely understand Butland being really scunnered at losing a goal that, to the novices, like three of us on this podcast, you would imagine would be meat and drink to him 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, his positioning was very poor for the goal. And actually, I seen a guy, Patrick Caskey, that's on Twitter, had shared some stats saying that Butland's now entering final season McGregor stats on shots and goal right now, which is really not good. I think he should be doing a lot better for that. But I think he's caught off guard by how quality the finish is. Let's not take anything away. It is a very, very top tier finish from Kyogo, and that's the difference. That's what I keep talking about. They have that quality. You fast forward to the second half, Dessers actually had a chance in a very kind of similar position, wee bit wider, but he just passed it back to Schmeichel.
Yeah,
That's the difference. But you're talking about Proper's too busy concentrating on the man behind him, which I think is Kuhn, because Jeffrey was further ahead. Lesson number one, go to the ball.
Yeah.
Proper should be going to the ball. I have absolutely no idea what Suter's doing though. While we're focused on Proper and Butland, Suter's away man marking space. Like, I don't know what the centre backs were doing today. One of the things that one of my mates said today was Leon Balogun at 37 is still our best defender. And the most worrying thing about that is in Steven Gerrard's reign, Balogun was our third best defender behind Golds and Hilander, and then Balogun.
Yeah.
How are we in a position right now after basically giving Clement and Klopp their opportunity to see who they want in the summer to go and get? And I know we've still got the guy to come in who's been brought in on loan. I'm not going to pronounce his name from Feyenoord. But you're hoping that he's going to come in and hit the ground running, because right now with Proper, since the very first time I've seen him, I've had question marks. He reminds me of Russell Martin. He just doesn't look like a good enough Rangers defender. My biggest frustration with the likes of Ben Davies, when we were kind of laughing last week about Ben Davies leaving, is aggression. You need to be commanding in a Rangers team.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing it from Proper. That one's a great example. He should just be going straight to the ball and blocking the shot.
Yeah. No, it was frustrating for me. And I think all that stuff happens in real time. We've got the benefit of watching it on the telly and being able to critique it in whichever way we see fit tonight. At the moment when it happens, it may be entirely different. But I think from looking in, it was a really, really disappointing one to lose. And as I say, I don't think Proper's first experience of the Old Firm wasn't particularly good. Listen, if you're watching us tonight on our YouTube channel, please get involved in the chat. Leave us a message. There's some interesting ones that are dropping in there, some being not so complimentary towards the board. If you've got anything you want to get off your chest, fire it in there. And if it's cool and we can share it, then we absolutely will. I want to say a quick word and a big hello indeed to our sponsors. Thanks to Art of Gold, Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions and CSD Air Conditioning, who are looking after the podcast all season, and we are grateful for their support. Don't forget, this is the Four Lads Had a Dream podcast. That Sunday show on the network right through for the next 10, 20 minutes or so, if we can get through that far. Goal number 3 of the afternoon comes in the second half. And Doogie, we had opportunities in the second half at 2-0. Some were a wee bit exciting, some maybe not so much. Dessers, as you say, has that one where I think he passes it into Schmeichel. Good chance. Can't remember if that's 2-0 or post 3-0. I was scunnered at that point. But I do want to speak a little bit about the third goal that Celtic scored this afternoon. And it's wee things. I think every goal we've seen today were of our own making. Ross McCausland's first touch for the third goal really isn't very clever, and he needs to do better there, doesn't he?
He does. It's not a very good pass from Conor Barron, though.
Yeah.
He's put it to the wrong side of McCausland, but I thought from the moment McCausland came on, he was very poor, actually.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it just comes down to that quality again. Ross McCausland is a good player to have in the squad for certain games. He is not the answer for Celtic. And unfortunately, that's what happens when, one, you've got players injured like Cortez. You've got cowards like Matondo that just wanted to go off the pitch. You're then having to rely on McCausland. And actually, that's the other frustration for me, is in the January transfer window, I was crying out for another winger to come out. I was crying out for 6 and a winger.
Yeah.
As the other positions to strengthen. We were obviously in talks with the Southampton boy and Fan Davidozi's son, and it never materialised. But that's what you're left with. That's happened. It's a stray pass. When McGregor actually gets away, nobody challenges him.
Yeah.
Nobody challenges him. I think Sterling's kind of the nearest man to him. Close him down.
Yeah.
You know these guys have got quality. It's a bit like the Kyogo one. Don't let these guys stroll through the middle of the park. Get in their faces. And it's a great shot. It takes a deflection. I think the deflection did come off Sterling in the end, and the deflection's the difference. Don't blame Butland for that one, because the deflection's what takes it right into the corner. And that's where the luck's against you, because that deflection doesn't happen. It's maybe an easier one for Butland. But rule number one, close them down.
Yeah.
Just get in front of them. And I'm sick of, and I said it on Twitter before the game, I'm sick of Celtic just being given the freedom of the park when they play against us. Yeah. Callum McGregor in particular seems to constantly find the space to dictate the game. We need to get in their faces. We need to be making the challenges. And that's the biggest frustration. It's one of the biggest frustrations for me is, we can talk about quality. We can talk about mentality. You just want to see effort. You just want to see, a team that wants to either win or certainly not lose by 3 goals. When he's strolling through there, you think somebody's just going to go out and take him out. Just get right in there. And that's what's really annoying for me is we just keep on leaving these guys to stroll through the middle of the park.
Yeah. Sheryl, I want to speak to you about some of the stuff that's went on post-match. We'll go to Clement's comments in the first instance where he did speak about I'm not a stats man, I have to say. He did rip into the stats. And he spoke about Celtic having 14 chances, ourselves having 13, both of us having 4 on target, and the gap between the gap between quality, which Dougie referred to earlier on about them taking their chances and us not doing that. He referred to the ball possession being relatively equal to each other. The big thing that I was glad to hear him say at last was he was not happy with their action at 1-0. The most important stat of the game is the obvious one, which was the one that sends their support home happy and us really feeling miserable and quite crappy about our Sunday night, to be honest with you. I wonder how you felt his comments were.
Do you know what? It's the first time that I've actually thought, what are you talking about, Clement? Do you know, it's the first time that I've thought, come on, we could all see how the game went, how poor the performance was, the lack of heart, the lack of depth, the lack of quality, and he's not going to come out and absolutely slate them, but to come out and point out the stats and use them to his advantage in a game that we were absolutely pathetic in. I don't know what that was about. I absolutely get that he won't slate them, and I have no problem with that. But he has spoke quite honestly in the past about certain situations within the team and maybe relating to the board as well, which I had respect for. But that today, I think no. And I, in general, like him, and I think we need to give him time. I don't think he's absolutely not exempt from criticism. I get that. But we touched on it last week. We could see what he was trying to do last week.
Yeah.
However, this week, no, I do think he really does deserve some criticism, first of all, for that post-match and then for the tactics during the game as well.
And I'll stick with you, Sheryl, because obviously there's footage that's been passed around on social media tonight. The club arriving back at Ibrox. I think there's footage of Liam Balogun trying to play peacemaker with some of the support. And of course, there was footage of Clement, I would assume, returning to his car. And Kenneth Rutherford refers to it as arguing. I wasn't convinced it was arguing. There was certainly elements of debate there. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stressful look, I think. It is affected. I worry that moment today is Philippe Clement's hedge moment with Caixinha when he was arguing in Luxembourg. I think it's been referred to that indeed on social media. But again, a couple of wee bits and pieces that are just a concern just now. I think they are a worry, and I think as support we're entitled to be worried about it.
I think, though, to be fair, good on him. If somebody is having a go at him, good on him for actually trying to speak to somebody. And maybe I haven't seen it, Scott, I'm like yourself, but I did hear about it. And if he has gone and tried to speak to somebody or listen to what they're saying, then you know what, fair play to him. But putting himself in that position, especially in the age of camera phones and social media and X, etc., he does leave himself quite vulnerable depending on what. I've seen a comment online as well that he was being blamed for New Edmiston House and the amount of money that cost as well. And look, people are angry. That was absolutely horrendous this afternoon. So people are angry. Would I go up and find him and shout at him about his tactics or New Edmiston House? No, but not everybody is in that position or feels like that and will go and have a go at him. And do you know what? I actually say credit to him if he's going to go and try and speak back to them, but he kind of leaves himself open to criticism and to being filmed, etc.
Yeah, David Haddon, totally agree with Sheryl there. Managers giving stats when I played off the park, relating to the Ross County performance, a team who will probably be relegated. If he didn't catch what Clement said, speaking to BBC Scotland, he said, yes, but don't forget what happened last week. It was the best result in around 4 years for the club. It's not that black and white. It's maybe more dark grey, but that's normal. I don't want to lose 3-0, but we need to take the right conclusion out of that. And the right conclusion is that we should have made it 3-2 or 3 each today by being more efficient. And while I think he's not necessarily, it's easy to maybe look at that and think he's trying to do a comparison between the result last week, which was 6 goals at home, which you're obviously going to laud from, I think personally, to a really disappointing afternoon against the rivals at their place. So it's been an extremely disappointing afternoon for various different reasons. Doogie, I do want to speak to you about maybe the difference in mood. Rangers TV interviewed the manager and Jack Butland after the end of the match. Sorry, Stephen. Good night. And one of the things that really, really surprised me was almost the difference in mood. And I'll back that up. I don't think Walter Smith would have been as calm and maybe collected as what Philippe Clement was when he was interviewed by the club. I can imagine him ripping down walls, to be perfectly frank, and being furious. And Jack Butland, I think, came across more as the way that I would expect the losing goalkeeper, I nearly said captain, the losing goalkeeper of the match to be really pissed off about, effectively. I don't know if you've seen both, but both interviews are quite telling, I think.
They are, but I'd rather Butland just save shots than come out and be disappointed on camera. But on the Clement one, I think Clement's maybe had a wee error of judgment. I think he's maybe thinking publicly he needs to come out and try and galvanise the support to keep behind the team, keep believing in this team. He keeps on reiterating the message around be patient, give us until October. I hate to keep doing the comparison between him and Gerrard, but I think as a support, we really bought into Gerrard because we're not dumb, right? When you witness a game like that, it was not good enough. You don't need the manager to come out and peddle the pish that he was, saying that we had 3% less possession than Celtic, had 47%, they had 53, so 6% before anyone gets pedantic, or say that we had one less shot than them and it was just that difference in quality. You can call a spade and say that we were very poor today, and you can be passionate about it by saying, listen, we know we weren't good enough. See this hole, we could have scored 3 goals, it could have finished 3 each. How about we stop 3 goals? You can come out and say it wasn't good enough, we need to do better, we're really annoyed about it. We've got the international break. I know he spoke about some bounce games and stuff. He could have really come out and hammered home, the positive message on the back of a rant. He could have really tore into the players and said, listen, at the international break, we're going to spend a lot of time together getting this right, and we'll come back against Dundee United and we're going to give it an all, because right now we're 4th in the league. That's not good enough, right? So he could have come out with a different message. I think that's the difference between Clement and Gerrard. Gerrard was honest. He came out and he told us how it was. We all listened to him, and you've seen the difference in the passion. Could just be a language thing, could be a style thing. With Butland, on the other hand, interesting it was Butland that came out and not Tav. I think, as we were chatting before, it's maybe because it would be the same old story from James Tavernier. Disappointed, we need to do better. Good to hear a different voice from Jack Butland, one of the so-called leaders in the dressing room. Do you know what's funny about leadership, right? My mates all played in a charity game yesterday, and it was organised through the club at Auchenhowie, and 2 ex-Rangers players played in the game, Marvin Andrews and Barry Ferguson. I asked my mates before I came on, we were just chatting away, and I said, how was Barry? And he said, do you know what, he's just come back from an injury, he had surgery in his knee, so he wasn't particularly fit, but I tell you what, at his age, You don't lose the competitiveness. He was hammering into tackles. He was shouting at us the whole game, and Big Marv had to pull him aside and remind him that it was a charity game. That's what we're missing. That's Rangers. You need somebody that's going to go around and absolutely just drag games by the scruff of the neck. You need to shout at the players. You can look at the captain. Only the captain can speak to the referee. That's the difference, right? That's one role that the captain has, that they can be the one that speaks to the referee. You don't need the captain's armband to lead by example, to shout at everyone and tell everyone what they're meant to be doing. Where is the leadership? You know, we signed, I had this rant in the house earlier on, right? We signed Proper because he was this experienced Eredivisie centre-back who was a captain of FC20. Where is his leadership? That's why you're signing guys like that. They need to come in and show that leadership straight away. And there was zero in the game. And that's what frustrates me. But I went a tangent because I was going to talk about Butland. I think Butland is very, very down in his interview because he knows that we can do better.
Yeah.
He knows it's there. Everybody knows it's there. But I think we need to start seeing it. I'm sick and tired of people coming out and talking about how we're disappointed with that today. We know we've got it in us. See, when they come back from the international break, how about he shows it?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think there was, there was lots of bits and pieces there that you expect someone to come on and say post-match, your Auntie Sonia's been on, Dougie. And yeah, he did say all the obvious things. Ironically enough, probably all the things that you would expect James Tavernier, had the captain been trotted out, to say. There was nothing in it that was overly surprising. It was just there was a definite difference in the way that the message of disappointment was being portrayed, and I felt of the two, Butland seemed way more disappointed than the manager did, which kind of concerns me. Sheryl, you've already suggested that you are happy with Philippe Clement as things stand just now moving forward. I think everyone agrees that we can't get into the cycle of changing our manager every October. That makes sense. Are you a little bit concerned for him between now and January, knowing that I don't think we'll bring in any players? Of course, I think we've still got the opportunity to bring in some freebies should we want to. That would very much be dependent on someone else disappearing, as we've seen throughout the summer. Are you concerned for him between now and January if he was to go on a run of results that maybe weren't so positive?
Do you know what? In terms of being concerned, I don't think he'll go. He won't go. The board have made that very, very clear in the last few weeks with that long-term contract.
Yeah.
That was absolutely about saying, you know what, regardless of what happens here, he is here. He's here for the long term. And I do get as well, and I kind of back him in the sense that it's not going to take one transfer window. Absolutely not. I think we're talking 3, 4 to get rid of the deadwood that we still have around the team and to build on what he's trying to do. It's just at times, games like this weekend, you're not really sure what he's trying to do. Whereas last week, it was Ross County, but it was very clear how he wanted us to play, the width at the sides as well. He's not going anywhere. And I don't want to, we can't get into this cycle of ditching a manager, because that's what happens with this team. What they do is they get the new manager bounce, but because embedded within the DNA of the bulk of our squad is this loser mentality, they will get the bounce. They get the bounce from the new manager coming in, and then they revert back to type. It's what they do. Yeah. And you can argue about Bale's skills as a manager. They did it with Van Bronckhorst. They've done it with Clement as well. It is a DNA that is embedded within our team, and habitually sacking managers is not going to work for us. We're also then weakens our kind of money that we've got, because we're probably still paying off the last 2 managers as well. So it has that financial impact as well. So I do worry for him, but he's not going anywhere. Absolutely not.
Dougie, same question to you, and 2 entirely different questions, and I'll ask them again. And they are you happy with Clement, and are you concerned for him? Happy in the sense that he's here and he's doing the job he's doing, but concerned in the sense that if he was to stumble a little bit, perhaps between now and January, I don't think the board would sort of push the button on him, to be perfectly honest with you. And Craig McLean, I'm chuffed you've took time out to watch a Rangers podcast, but good night. I do wonder if you would, again, be a little bit concerned that a sudden run of maybe poor games could be a problem. It would certainly be a problem for us. Could it be a problem for him?
Absolutely. You're talking about a manager right now that's not won any of his games against Celtic. That is a problem in itself.
Yeah.
Rangers managers need to find a way to beat Celtic. They're your biggest rivals. He doesn't have a lot of defeats left in him, to be perfectly honest. While you're sitting fourth in the league with Aberdeen and Dundee United above you, you can't keep getting beat. Now, last week was positive, and I know it was only Ross County. You started to see what he was building. We need to see that getting built, and I think a large part of that, Scott, is his signings. We know that he has inherited a mess. A lot of players earning big money that we've not been able to shift. Let's see the quality of the players that he's signed. There's still a lot of them that have to come in, and we'll judge them when they do come in. So Bajrami, for example, the boy from Feyenoord. Igamani, for example. You know, we were talking to Stevie Clifford this morning, and the noises coming out of Auchenhowie just now is that Igamani is really looking the part in training.
Yeah. He
came on for a short period of the game, and I think it was Sheryl beforehand or during the pod actually said that his first couple of touches, you know, he beat a man, he looked really good, he looked sharp.
Yeah.
He had a cracking volley at one point that was blocked, and then it came back to Suter, and Suter's tried to side foot it into the goal. Igamani looked promising. You've got all these guys that have still to come in and make their impact on this team. We need to see that, and that's when you're going to really be able to judge Clement, because these are the guys that he picked. Goes back to my point about Gerrard signing that core and that spine of the team. We need to see what Clement's spine of the team is going to be. This is guys that he has signed for money. You know, Bajrami was what, 3.5 million? Diamante's 5 million. Cortez is a player that he's signed with a guarantee, the obligation to buy. We need to see these guys earn their salaries. That's the bit for me, is we need to give him that time to really embed his players and his style. Then we can really judge him. You know, if we don't start to see it by October, we're going to be in a really difficult place. So I'm not happy with him, but I'm prepared to give him time. I definitely don't want to go down the route of constantly changing our manager, and I think for all the reasons that we've spoken about, financial being one. But do you know, sometimes you're left with no choice. I was a big Gio fan, and I felt that Gio was dealt a very, very bad hand by the board with the signings that he was given after getting us to Europa League final. Gio's biggest issue was that he took us into a competition, the Champions League, where he then wasn't backed by the board to go and spend money to strengthen that team. That then meant we were on the back of some heavy defeats like the Liverpool game.
Yeah.
What are we going to be like by the end of the year if we go up against Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspur at Ibrox and they come here and they take several off us? Because if that happens, which it really, really possibly could, talk about a shaky peg, Clement will be in a very dangerous situation at Rangers.
Yeah, no, it's a slight worry. You have to be honest. You know, I think I seen a stat earlier on. I think he's won 9 and 22 now, which is let's be honest, that's a concern. That is not Rangers manager form. It's certainly not something you particularly want to entertain. Guys, it's been fantastic having you both on. Sheryl, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
And Dougie, always good to have you on. I know you are genuinely struggling a lot, so I appreciate you taking time out to come out on such a miserable, rotten night. So thanks for joining us as ever.
I've popped many strepsils to try and keep me going. It was good to chat, and there's a lot of probably new listeners tonight. Hopefully people have found it therapeutic to be amongst fellow Rangers fans, and for all the Celtic fans tuning in, don't forget to like and subscribe to our Rangers podcast.
No, I was actually just going to do that, but I don't need to do it now, so I can score that off the list. What I will say is that this is, of course, our third That Sunday show from the season started. Hugely grateful for the support we've had 3 shows in. We're really pleased that you guys keep coming back and looking at us and watching us and listening to what I say. sometimes. We do hope you continue to support us and the podcast moving forward. Next week, the guys are back. Shona and Andrew and Kenny and Stevie back twice times next week, Monday night and Friday evening. Watch for those dropping into your YouTube notifications. As Dougie says, if you're not already following us, then you really should do. Put the notifications on so you get a bell and a notification each time we release any content, and you'll be able to check us out. Before I let you go, it hasn't all been doom and gloom for Rangers today. The women's team, again, a hugely satisfying 10-0 win against Dundee United at their place. Hat-trick for Laura Berry. I think her first hat-trick for the women's team, and perhaps unsurprisingly, and I've said this for the last 3 weeks, it's another hat-trick for Katie Wilkinson, who is on an incredible amount of goals already for someone who has only just came up in the summer. Please continue to support the podcast. As I say, like, subscribe, comment. We appreciate your comments. It's great to have you all on board. We now take a wee break. We're not back next Sunday because it's the international break. It gives Dougie the chance to sort out his throat. And Sheryl, I did see someone actually comment tonight asking if you're allowed to sit on the sofa. You're okay to sit where you are. That's absolutely fine. Don't forget, we're back in 2 weeks from now. If you are a fan of the international break, please enjoy it. And don't forget, join the guys through the week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyde Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited and CSD Air Conditioning, along with Art of Gold. Thank you for listening or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.